in now. Just going to go ahead and double check that the link is working. And then we'll get started. Okay. Looks like we are live. Good. Okay. So we'll just give everyone a few minutes here till we get a certain number of views live. Just let people tune in here.
Zaina, can you do a practice question for me on the side?
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we have about 14 people watching now, so we can go ahead and just get started. For those of you tuning in, if you look at the YouTube link on the bottom left, it should say be part of the conversation. Click here to join the audience for this hangout. So you can click there to watch the YouTube video while also sending in questions. And that way we can have all of your questions written down and we can address them either throughout the video or at the end during our Q&A session. Okay, so to go ahead and get started, guys, my name is Zaina Alatar, and I am the Student Director of Students Organized for Syria, one of the partner orgs that is behind Books Not Bombs. I want to first take a moment to thank you guys all for participating in the campaign thus far, and I want to introduce some of our board members of SOS, as well as one of the board members of, or the Student Director of STAND, another partner org behind Books Not Bombs. So let's go ahead and get started with Neda, our Operations Director for SOS. Neda, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Neda Hashim. I'm the Director of Operations at SOS, and I'm really excited to have you all participating in this campaign.
Dina, want to go ahead?
Hi, guys. My name is Dina Jabber. I'm the Communications Coordinator for SOS National, and we're very excited to have you guys tonight.
And Francesca from STAND.
Hi, I'm Francesca from STAND. We're one of the partner organizations working with SOS to bring this campaign, and we're really excited to be talking with all of you.
Awesome. So just to go ahead and get started, most of our viewers right now are people who've either started a petition at their school, who've signed the petition at their school, or are partner orgs and are just watching the webinar right now. What we wanted to go ahead and do to get started is to take a quick look back at the first 2 weeks of this campaign, which we called the launch week. And if you look at our website right now, we have over 125 schools who are participating. And at this moment, at the time of the webinar, we have 5,345 signatures of students and community members and faculty who are supporting scholarships for Syrian students to get the education they deserve. And so that alone is a phenomenal number, a phenomenal amount of signatures and an amazing number of schools. So for all of you guys watching who've started petitions, great job. And for all of you guys who have worked really hard for the last 2 weeks to get signatures, amazing work. And then as far as our top schools for the last 2 weeks, as far as who's gathered the most signatures, leading the race is the University of Florida. Let's go ahead and get an updated number of their number of signatures. So University of Florida right now has 330 signatures, so they're leading the number of signatures for any single school. Shortly after them is Michigan State University with 314 signatures. Yale follows them with 252, shortly after by IUPUI, which is Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis. and then the University of Michigan, and then Wayne State University. So all of those schools have over 200 signatures. We are really looking forward to having all of our schools have 200, 300, 400 signatures, but we know a lot of you guys just joined on, and so we're really excited for you guys to get towards that goal. Let's see here. So what we wanted to share with you guys as far as successes from some of the students who have been working hard on this campaign. A few of our students actually were contacted by their school newspaper, and so they're getting coverage of the Books Not Bombs campaign at their local school newspaper. And like I said, a lot of our schools have over 200 signatures right now. And then one story that specifically stood out, Wayne State, which is one of the top schools, they sent us a little bit of a success story. They were just letting us know that at Wayne State they had a lot of success with their campaign by sharing it on social media. And they also talked to their campaign about the campaign to professors and peers in class. So if you guys look at our Books Not Bombs Facebook page, you can see there some of the Michigan State University, SOS, president and vice president sharing the Books Not Bombs campaign with their classmates and with their professors. So going to classrooms was definitely one thing that gathered a lot of signatures, as well as social media efforts. So posting on whether if you have an SOS chapter, posting on your SOS chapter's Facebook page, posting on different club chapter Facebook pages, and posting on group Facebook pages. Those are all things that can help you gather signatures on social media. And then a few other things that have helped people succeed is tabling on their campuses. So going out to wherever it's busiest on your campus and setting up a table and talking to people as they pass by and explaining to them what Books Not Bombs is about, and gathering their signatures to the public eye to spread awareness to people who are not particularly part of your social circle. So that gets you out and about into the bigger realm of your university. So those are kind of the three big things that we found are the success of the different schools who have participated in the campaign. Those are success stories from our top 6 schools. And so definitely something that you want to go ahead and take into account when you are going through and trying to gather more signatures. Because though we have a lot of schools who have gathered a lot of signatures in the last 2 weeks, this campaign is far from over. We are going to continue to work to gather signatures as part of phase 1 of the campaign, and we'll also move forward with other phases of the campaign, which I will let Neda Hashim, our operations director of SOS, explain a little bit more detail. Neda, do you want to go ahead and take over from there?
Sure. So to add on to, I mean, a lot of what Zaina said, I'm sort of going to repeat a little bit. If you guys all haven't taken a look at the campaign toolkit, divided into 3 phases, and so we've sort of been in phase 1 of collecting signatures, and now we're sort of ready to move to phase 2, or not. Phase 1 and phase 2 can now sort of go hand in hand from now on. So the way to really get the campaign out there, a few good tips. They're also included in the toolkit, so definitely check it out. Is to really build partnerships with different student organizations on your campus. So, like, just an example of how you can go about and do that is just go to your campus website, your school website, and look up all the different student organizations. And then go ahead and, like, message each of them one by one and be like, hey, can we grab coffee? I'd love to talk about what your organization is doing and what our organization is doing, and maybe possibly partner up on some activities. And then once you meet up for coffee, you guys can introduce the idea of Books Not Bombs and why they should participate. So that's sort of like one approach to getting other student orgs on board with you. And that way they can share the campaign with their networks and all their contacts. The second sort of idea is to get local figures to endorse your campaign. So whether that's student leaders on your campus, professors, local religious or community leaders, city mayors and officials, sort of all those different kinds of figures in your local community that can really endorse the campaign. So once again, you can send them an email or stop by their office, call them, just try to get them on board with this idea. And as you all know, the refugee crisis is something that most Americans really feel passionate about, but they don't really necessarily know how to help. So providing them with this campaign can be a way to draw them in and give them a way to help. And then the third thing that you can do to really publicize this campaign is reaching out to the media. So not just your local newspaper, but actually approach your local media outlets, whether it's TV, radio, or newspaper. So once again, you can just do a simple Google search and fill out their contact us form and really just contact them. So those are the three main tips of really reaching out. And once again, don't worry, if you forget it, you can just go back to the toolkit and it's all there. So now I'm going to hand it off to Dina to accept questions and manage the question answer. Sorry.
I'll go ahead and intercede just for a little bit. We've had a lot of questions before we go ahead and get started with the live Q&A right now. We've had a lot of questions about people who have gathered a lot of signatures and who are wanting to approach the administration with their signatures. And so just to clarify, for those of you who haven't been able to look at the Books Not Bombs campaign toolkit, this campaign is generally broken into 3 phases. So the first phase is to gather signatures for your petition, and so that's kind of the phase that most of our schools are in right now. Getting to X number of signatures is going to be extremely important before you want to go ahead and approach your university with this ask item of accepting Syrian refugees to your university. So that's the big thing that we're focusing on right now. That was the purpose of Launch Week, was to get Books Not Bombs out there on all of the campuses and then mainly to start gathering signatures. And so for those of you who are asking kind of what are we going to be doing with those signatures, don't worry, it's not something where we're just going to gather the signatures and end the campaign there. That's far from it. We're actually going to take those signatures and we'll reach out to you guys and let you know these are the number of signatures you have for your school. This would be a good time to approach your administration and let them know, hey, we have XYZ number of signatures from our student body, and this is something our student body wants, it's something our student body is asking for, and can you make this a reality? And so that's when you would want to go into phase 2 of the campaign, which is to approach your administration and get the petition, or move the petition into action. And so that's where we would actually get the scholarships for the Syrian refugees, for them to be able to apply to your university, get the scholarships, and come to your university, which would eventually take us on to step 3, which is where we will go ahead and help Syrian refugees fill in their scholarship applications, fill in their university applications, and get into the college of their choice here, or not of their choice, but get into the college that has offered the scholarship to them here in the United States. So for those of you who are asking about a kind of bigger picture of the campaign, those are the 3 phases. And if you go to books-not-bombs.com/resources, you'll find the campaign toolkit there. For those of you who haven't looked at it yet, I strongly recommend that you go in and look there. You'll see the breakdown of the 3 phases. You'll also see the tips that Neda mentioned for phase 1. And you'll see a brief preview and overview of phases 2 and 3. Of course, we'll go into more details. We'll provide more resources as more of our schools go into phase 2 and phase 3. If you think that you're ready to move on to phase 2 at this point, you can always reach out to us and let us know. This is the point where we want to move forward. We would really appreciate your help, and then that way we can get you guys the resources more quickly and get you on the timeline and pace that you are at. Because as you know, with this campaign, it's really going to be customized to your school. It's going to be something that you are going to take on. This is your project, guys, and for this to be a reality, it's really going to be up to you to take this baby and kind of move forward with it and grow it on your own, because as much resources as we can help with and as much as we can give you guys. It's really going to be up to you guys to take this petition and take these signatures and make it into real live action on your campus. So we're definitely here to support all of the organizations behind Books Not Bombs, whether it's SOS, whether it's STAND, whether it's the Syria Campaign Foundation. We're all here to lend a helping hand and be there to support and guide you guys through the process. We're really excited to see what you guys are able to do with this campaign, how many administrations we can get to actually offer these scholarships to their schools. And for those of you who kind of want a goal item, we are really looking to have about 10 to 20 schools really get these scholarships approved by their university by May. And so that's just in a few months, and it's kind of a high goal for us, but we really think it's going to be something that is doable with everyone's excitement and passion and patience to get through this campaign and really bring those scholarships home to your universities. So I think that addresses some of the questions that we had as far as the different phases of the campaign. And I know we have some questions coming in now through the live Q&A feature, so we'll let Dina kind of moderate those and make sure to just send your questions as they come along through that live Q&A feature.
Sorry,
Yeah,
to
and
say
I
one more time. Sorry. One last thing I just remembered. So in regards to, I know a lot of people are like, how are we supposed to get in touch with all the people that signed onto our campaign? So when you're ready to, for example, move to phase 2 and like
that's one of the questions. So if you wanna
No,
wait with it, so we can address all parts of it.
Right.
So give me 1 second. If I can actually add on to what Zaina's saying, and then we'll start with that question first. A lot of people I know, Zaina has broken down for you guys phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We just want to let you guys know that you guys can continue collecting signatures as you're going into phase 2 and 3. And something that I've been having people ask me is about launch week. We know that the first 2 weeks was kind of launch week. We wanted everyone to go out and table and everything. And there are some schools that signed on to the campaign later on and didn't get a chance to have an event during the first 2 launch weeks. You're still able to. You're more than welcome to have as many events as you want, have as many events on campus to promote awareness about this campaign and collect signatures. So don't feel like if you didn't make it, do it in the first 2 weeks that you can't do it or that it's going to be looked over. But we more than happily will welcome all of that, and we want to see you guys still working hard and advertising the campaign and getting people interested. And also keep it as a way to, for anyone who is an SOS chapter, for you to pull in students to your chapter is through this campaign as well.
Before we go to the Q&A session, Francesca, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, Dina, do you want to go ahead and start moderating the Q&A session?
Okay, so first question says, can we get the actual name list or at least data from our list of signatures? For example, how many students, how many alumni, or how many faculty? So Neda, if you'd like to go ahead since I saw that you were going to answer that question.
Yeah, for sure. So since we have about 120 schools, you can imagine it can be a little bit overwhelming from our side to constantly give you guys updates about that breakdown, because I have to like literally look into the database and all of that. So what we decided was a sort of good middle ground was that when you're ready to move to phase 2 and start lobbying your school administration, you would shoot us an email, and then we would provide you the most recent breakdown between students, alumni, and community members. And also, we think it's a really good idea for you to try to meet with the rest of the petition signers and try to find like a committee that's really willing to sort of like lead together this this lobbying effort. I know most petitions have 1 or 2 people who started the petition, but it'd be good to have like a group of 5 that are like really dedicated to keep pushing forward, because when you lobby school administration, sometimes it takes multiple attempts and conversations, and it's good to have like a team with you. So we can, once you're ready, we can send out an email communication for you to your list. Just provide us the message that you want to send out, like the date and time that you guys want to set up a meeting, so that you guys can all meet and talk and discuss. Did I miss anything, do you know?
No, I think you covered it. You'll have the statistics when you're ready. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that one. So, all right. So next question, could you provide an example of how to advertise the campaign, especially when tabling? So I'm actually going to ask Zaina to answer this question because she has done a wonderful job at ASU advertising the campaign. And if you guys can also see their pictures on our pages, but go ahead, Zaina.
I'm going to actually go ahead and screen share with you guys. So I am a student director of SOS on the national level, but I am also a student at ASU, Arizona State University, and so I'm president of the SOS chapter there. And so we've been really trying to have the Books Not Bombs be a very big focus of our chapter activities. And so this is just one example of how we tabled at our university. It's really as simple as whatever form of rental or kind of reservation that your school has to reserve spots on your university, you will want to go ahead and reserve a spot. That's the first thing. And then just on the day of, some schools provide tables, some schools ask you to provide them, so just depending on what your school requirement is. And if you guys have questions on how to figure out more about that, we can definitely try to help you as best as we can. But essentially, you will want to go ahead and reserve the room, reserve a table, or bring a table, and then you can just use different ways to spread the word, essentially. So it looks like for ASU, what we did is I took a bunch of I'm a science major, so I took a bunch of my science textbooks and I wrapped them in butcher paper, and this is extremely cheap butcher paper, wrapped it up, and then just kind of wrote a statistic, the Books Not Bombs campaign, and then the website, and kind of piled them up and put a balloon on top, or a couple balloons on top, to kind of signify books over bombs. And we had, as you can see in the picture, just a computer with the petition open. You can't really see this on the table, but we had info cards and little quarter sheet pages about the campaign, which again you can find at books-not-bombs.com/resources, and you can print those out. So that's one example. And so that's at ASU. Another example here is at Yale. They used what looks like parchment paper, and they wrote Books Not Bombs kind of big on there. They have the laptop to get signatures. If you're an SOS chapter, you can have your SOS banner or logo up there. Looks like Yale actually has 2 laptops to gather signatures, so they're kind of going above and beyond. And then I'll give you guys one more example here. As far as this was CU Boulder. And so they kind of did just like a photo campaign where they took this picture, and they did more of like a social media presence, posted this, and I believe later on they also posted flyers of Books Not Bombs campaign on their university. So if you're not able to reserve a table specifically, and you're not able to rent a table, reserve a spot on your campus, you can do things that are more mobile, like this, where you are sitting in kind of a lounge area and you try to gather signatures there. You can go out on your quad or your union, wherever is kind of like the hot spot for your university, and just try to gather signatures there. With an iPad, with a mobile device. Our website is mobile, and so you can take it kind of wherever you need to and get more signatures there. So I think that probably covers that question. If you guys have a follow-up to that question, you can go ahead and just submit another Q&A session or question on the live chat feature below.
I think Francesca wanted to add something to that, right?
Yeah, so I can just throw in a couple more ideas. I'm tabling at my school, and I've been working with some STAN chapters, so just a few more ideas. First of all, it's really helpful to have like either half sheet or quarter sheet flyers that just have like a couple of like facts or something, and then the URL to your petition, because if it's like a full sheet of paper, like people are just going to take it and throw it out. But if it's like the quarter sheet, people will like stuff it in their pocket, and then when they get home, they'll like open it and look at it and be like, oh yeah, like I should go check this out. So that's a good idea. This is like a really cool thing that my school has. I don't know if it's like other places, but we can make pins for free through a student organization. So having some sort of like free giveaway that like if you don't have to spend money on it, is always really helpful, just to get people to come over, and then you make them sign it and then they can take something. So those are sort of two just like tabling tactics. The other thing I just sort of want to emphasize is like posting on social media groups. So my school has a group called Overheard at U Chicago, which is just like people posting things they've like overheard or overseen. So I like took a picture of the URL board in one of the classes. I got almost like 50 likes just from, or like likes and then signatures on that post alone. So finding like creative social media places to post it.
Something else that we wanted to add is a couple of schools have done this is if you just walk into one of your lecture halls and if you know that either before your professor comes in and starts writing on the board or anything, if you write the entire link on the board, you'll get a lot of people who, you know, they'll just be interested, like, I wonder what that is, and everyone comes in with their computers and they'll look it up, and a lot of times that's how you'll get a lot of traffic and people will sign that way. We also have, kind of adding on to Francesca, what she said, is I actually did this as well with one of the groups that I was a part of, and I just went ahead and posted it on there and had people sharing it. Once they saw it on there, people that I wasn't even friends with now were taking it and sharing it with their friends, so it's really easy to use social media to your advantage.
For those of you guys who wanted to use like a quarter sheet or half sheet, if you look at, I don't know if all of you guys can see my screen right now, but if this is where you would go for books-not-bombs.com/resources, and you can see our campaign toolkit, but you can also see, you can also see the full page info sheet, the half page info sheet, and then the quarter page info sheet, and these can all be printed in color or in black and white and cut and sized to whatever is best for you. And then as far as the chalkboard, you guys can see a few examples on our Facebook page. I'm not going to pull that up right now, but you can see them there. A few other things that you can do are holding events on the issue, for example, a speaking event or a teach-in. And so I know we mentioned early on in the webinar that you can just simply go up at the end of your class period and talk to your professor about talking about the campaign, and that's one way you can do it, is just get up at the end of class. Or you can also hold an event on your campus specifically for the Books Not Bombs campaign and tie it into the current refugee issue. A lot of people are very involved and they kind of want to learn more about the refugee situation, especially because it's such a hot topic right now. And so doing an event where people can come and ask questions and learn more and then leave with an action item, which is to participate in Books Not Bombs, to become involved in Books Not Bombs, to sign the petition. And so hosting events now would be really great because you have this action item for them to take home with them and kind of pursue, because this is going to be a long-term campaign, so it's a way for everyone to get involved.
Okay, so that was a great question, Zaina. So that helps a lot of other people who, not you, Zaina, the other Zaina who asked the question. And she also added on to there, because I think she wanted to specify, so I'm going to hit done here. We're going to add in her new question. She said, I meant, what would you recommend saying when attracting students passing by to sign the campaign? As you know, when you're tabling, a lot of times people come by and they just continue walking. So
I'm going to grab this one and then someone can add, because I had a specific experience with this. I was tabling on that ASU table that you guys all saw, and every time I would try to say like the catchphrase for Books Not Bombs, which is supporting scholarships for Syrian students to get the education they deserve, it's kind of long. So I've definitely learned that keeping it short, sweet, and simple is the best way to go. So saying something like, help students get an education, or help grant a scholarship to someone in need, something very small and catchy. Also, if it's people that you know personally, kind of bringing them in with that personal touch and being like, hey, how are you? It's been a while, and just kind of have a conversation with them, and then explain to them, hey, I'm doing this campaign. this is what it's about. I would love to get your signature on it. I would love to have you participate more if you think you can dedicate more time to it. That's the one thing is, the first thing is to keep it short and simple when you're trying to attract people you don't know. The second thing is be personable to those people who you do know and kind of make it more of a personal touch, make them feel like you're specifically like talking to them and this is something that they alone can, or not they alone, but they are really custom able to help you with. And the third thing that I would say is make sure that you have a good amount of people at your table. It's really tough to do with 1 or 2 people. It's definitely doable, but it's way more effective if you have maybe 4 or 5 people, because you guys can spread out. People can target different areas of whatever building you're in or whatever area you're in. And also, everyone has their own kind of social circle of friends. And so if you have more people, they can attract more people that they know. And different personalities click with different types of people. So if there's a quieter person, they might be able to get more of the quieter people involved. More loud people are usually good to attract those who don't really know what's going on, who are just like, who are those people? What are they doing? If someone's kind of loud and goes up to them and says, hey, like, this is what we're doing, you want to learn more, come onto the table. So having a lot of people with different personalities definitely helps. And so those would kind of be my top 3 tips, is when you're not yelling, but when you're vocalizing what you're about, be very short, sweet, and simple. The second thing is pull people in with a personal touch, make them feel like really wanted and make them feel like this is something that they can help with. And the third is to have a lot of people who can help you, just because you'll be able to reach more people there. It'll be more fun for all of you guys, because doing it alone will feel like a task, but doing it with 4 or 5 people will be like a fun activity that you guys are all doing together. So those would be my top 3 tips.
All right. Thank you, Zaina.
No problem.
All right. So we're kind of shifting gears a little bit with the questions that are coming in now. So this one's kind of a quick one. Just if you guys could reiterate. So what kind of goal should we have in terms of number of signatures? When do we decide we're done collecting signatures?
Neda, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So obviously the more signatures, the better. Based off the top of my head, I would say like 5% of the school population would be really cool. But this might be something that you have to research yourself and see what previous resolutions on your campus needed to pass, or if you know the student body who's on the student body council, ask them how many they think. That's what I would say, to be honest. I don't know if Francesca or Zane or Dina have any other ideas.
I mean, just think of this as when you, oh, go ahead, Francesca.
Oh, I was just going to say, one thing that I would say is that, like, you can definitely start meeting with, like, administration members at any point. So, like, I had my first meeting with somebody at the Office of International Affairs at UChicago, like, before the campaign was even launched. And so it's really helpful to be able to go in and be like, we have, like, 250 signatures so far and are still collecting more. But really that, like, these conversations can be happening at any time, and then we're bringing in more support for future meetings. So I don't think there's any point at which you, like, stop collecting signatures, but you just sort of keep everything going simultaneously.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was actually very similar to that, and I think that if you meet, for example, with the administration and they say, you know, that's a great number, but we require a minimum of this number, so then you'll at least know you have, okay, this is where I'm at, this is my goal, let me work on that. Or they might say, okay, that's good, but we would like to, you know, though they might have more parameters for you and ask you to work with them. So it's not going to be just kind of a collect the signatures, go in once and talk to them and they're going to say yes or no. It'll be kind of a negotiation between them, so you're going to be going back and forth likely. So never stop getting signatures, the more the better, and you're just in the process raising more awareness about the situation.
And
anything
again,
else?
if you feel like we're not answering your questions to the fullest, just go ahead and follow up with another question and we'll get to it again.
All right. So the next question. So, all right.
Do we want to read Erna's response real fast?
Okay. Okay, so in response to the tabling and getting people's attention, Erna at CU Boulder said, I was tabling yesterday and I asked, do you care about human lives as my opening line? It was interesting because people didn't want to be rude by saying no and ended up listening to me. So that's awesome. That is very, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but guilt always works really well.
Yeah. One of Stan's tactics, so we're an anti-genocide student organization, so I know a lot of chapters when they're tabling are like, are you pro-genocide? And then everybody has to stop because you can't say you're pro-genocide. So it definitely works. It's a tactic, but it works.
All right.
Thanks, Erna, for pitching in.
Ooh. Ooh, I'm having a little struggle here.
Erna.
All right. Let's see. So next question. Ooh. All right. Has decided to take on this project. All right. So she also said, my persuasion in society class has decided to take on BNB as a project we are working on. Is it okay if we use the logo?
Should I just, yeah, definitely. I think that's just a yes all over the board. You guys can feel free to, I mean, within the logo, it's obviously associated with Books Not Bombs campaign. It's not like anyone is hopefully going to be taking the logo for any other campaign. And so you guys can feel free to use it wherever you need to market it, to just let people know. So any projects that you guys want to take with the Books Not Bombs campaign, you can feel free to do so, as well as using the logos of the partner organizations. That's definitely something that you can do. And so, yes, feel free to comfortably use our resources, our logos, and whatever you need to make the project a success at your campus.
And just as long as the messaging is all the same, we're all like advocating for the same thing, it's totally fine.
Okay, so the next question, these go kind of hand in hand. So I'm going to pick this one. I think it covers a little more. How should we approach our administration with our request? Should we ask them for full funding? And how do we argue or negotiate with them for it if they initially refuse? How do Syrian students get the visas to get here? So let's break that down into parts.
All right, I'll take this one, Dina.
You want me to take this one?
Yeah. So we're still drafting the resolution language that you'll be using when you actually meet with the administration and really have like 1, 2, 3, this is what we want from you. Because you guys all know the petition language is sort of like a general petition and not really specific for the university in terms of what they need to specifically do. So the resolution language will include the phrase that they should be providing full scholarships for these students, because what's happened in the past, universities who've joined onto the Syria Consortium will only give a partial scholarship, and so these students come and they're able to attend 1 year, but then when their scholarship finishes, they're sort of screwed because they obviously can't afford to pay for the rest of their education. So it puts them in a real bind. So we really want to make that a condition of the scholarship giving process, is that they offer a full scholarship. In terms of the visa process and all of that, it's just like how any other international student would would apply, and so they would have to go to their embassy and go through that process. We can't guarantee that this, like, even if a student gets admitted into a university, it doesn't guarantee that the embassy will grant them a visa. So we're working with the International Institute of Education on this issue, and they're the ones who started the Syria Consortium, which we're asking universities to sign on to. And so they're associated with the State Department, so hopefully they'll be able to help us push more on trying to get these students' visas approved, but we don't have control over that. But what universities can also do, so the problem is with the Syrian issue is Syrian students can fall in a lot of different categories. They can be refugees in neighboring countries or in Europe. They could be refugees in the United States. They could be Syrian students on TPS in the United States. They could be Syrian students with a green card in the United States. Each one of those has a different legal classification. So for example, students who are here with refugee status and they're already in the United States, believe it or not, they can't, when they apply, they have to apply like any other student. So they do qualify for financial aid and all of that, but they have to go through all the same steps that you and I would have to go through. So sometimes, so in terms of like scholarship giving, these students might be blind to that category. So we would also add in the resolution language, like, please, these scholarships should apply to all 4 of these different types of Syrian students, and so that it can help as many Syrian students as possible. I know that was a little bit like really information heavy, but I hope it clarified a little bit.
So to add on to that, there's another question that has some similar aspects and a little more, and it says, what financial commitment should the institutions be asked to make? Would they provide scholarships for 4 undergraduate years? And then what about graduate students? So I think what we want, if you can answer the part about for graduate students.
It's for both undergrad and graduate. If your school specifically wants to advocate for graduate or like X number of graduate school applicants, then you can specify that. If you want it both, I mean, it depends what you specify. I mean, when we give you the resolution, the draft resolution, it'll be like a template, so you can insert things that will customize it for what your specific campus wants to advocate for and you really want your administration to do. But the scholarships, once again, we're going to be asking them to do full scholarships, so that means paying for the full tuition for the amount of time required for that degree. So for undergrad, it'd be 4 years. For grad school, it'd be 2 to 3, depending on the program.
One thing I would also add, sorry, is just that each school is different. So with my school, well, actually, I'm not going to get into my school. It's a little bit more complicated, but each school is going to be different. So just talking to different administration members, and if you sort of start lower and work your way up to the more important people, you learn or higher up people, you learn really important things along the way of just like how your school works and like how this can be implemented at your school. So definitely just take the time to sort of build relationships and figure out how the system works before you go to like the dean of your college or something.
And another thing to add on to that is, I know we mentioned earlier that one good way to gather signatures is to reach out to other student organizations, but also reaching out to student organizations will be vital in phase 2 of the campaign, where you actually want to go to administration, because there's going to be a lot of student organizations at your university who have done this before, whether it's Amnesty International, whether it's Oxfam, whether it's Students for Justice in Palestine, just different organizations that have presented their administration with an ask item and have succeeded or have gone through the process already. Working with those students and getting their advice, getting their feedback. That's going to be something that will definitely help you down the line, is getting advice from students who have done this before. And a few of us, I mean, we are going to be able to give you as much advice as we can, but for university-specific questions, you're going to want to be able to reach out to people who have done this before. So definitely maintain those connections that you establish with other student organizations. Don't just use them to gather petition signatures, but keep in mind which contacts that you can reach out to and who you can network with to when you get to phase 2 of the campaign, and you're going to need a little bit more help and guidance that's specific to your university.
Okay, thank you guys. If you guys have any more questions on that, you guys can put that in there. We're going to move on. So the next question, so I've actually come across this question as well. Do you have suggestions with dealing with people who argue that we shouldn't be giving refugees scholarships when we should be giving them to American students who need it? I live in a conservative area, and many here believe U.S. citizens are a priority. So, and who would like to answer that?
I can go ahead and start. So as far as, do you have suggestions with dealing with people who argue that we shouldn't be giving them? Okay. So you're going to run across people like this no matter what campaign you're doing, no matter kind of what the ask item is. There's always going to be people who give you pushback. And so a lot of the times it's a very defeating, it makes you feel very defeated, or it makes you feel unsupported. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that everyone who is participating in this campaign supports you, is 100% behind you. And so one of my biggest points of advice is to just not let this get to you. Reach out to students who are doing the campaign if you feel like you need to talk about it and vent about it. The second thing would be, if you feel like you're comfortable doing so, you can try to talk to them a little bit and educate them about the refugee situation, the amount of need for scholarships, the statistics that are just immense and like mind-numbing when you read them to people, and really start a conversation with them if that's something that you feel comfortable doing. That would definitely be my second point. And the third thing that you can really bring up to them is that students in the United States get scholarships every day. We all have financial aid offices that we can go to, scholarships that we can apply to. There's not really like a lack of scholarships there for American students. And so this would be a scholarship that is specifically addressing an international group of people and then more focused on Syrian refugees. And so your university inevitably is going to be giving scholarships to international students. It's going to be potentially something that's part of what they do every year. And so simply allocating some of that scholarship money to Syrian refugees is in no way going to take away from people who deserve it here in the United States. So those would be my 3 points: is 1, don't let it bother you; 2, start a conversation; and 3, just make sure that they understand that this isn't going to take away from anyone here in the U.S. It'll just go ahead and help more people.
I want to add on to that. So there's also the financial aspect of this, as we had been speaking earlier about what kind of financial commitment the schools have to be making. So in this case, each school is obviously going to deal with it differently. Some schools may take from the funding that they already have and allocate a specific amount of that towards the scholarships. And some schools might even keep the scholarships that they already have, but add on those scholarships and then ask for extra funding from donors and whatever to cover that cost. So in that case, you wouldn't even be taking away from other people, but in fact, you're just adding on to that that funding that's already there. So anyone else? I think.
Yeah, I could just throw in one more thing. First of all, just based off a conversation that I had with an admissions officer at my school, is that at least at my school, and this will also be depending on schools, but like the Syrian students will have to get in based on their own merit, and I think that that's a really valuable sort of way to point to, which is that like these students are going through the same process as everybody else to get into the school, and that they have just as much right as anybody from the U.S. or anywhere else in the world has to being in the school. And it's sort of our responsibility to make sure that like once they've gotten in, that they have the ability to go there. So that might be one way to deal with it. Yeah, I think also I would just throw out and sort of re-emphasize that if like you do face opposition, like definitely don't hesitate to reach out to one of us to talk it through. I mean, I know it can definitely be really frustrating, especially because like we all know that this is so important and like really good work, but it's frustrating when other people are sort of pushing back on it. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to one of us. If it's a really big issue that you're finding, we can help you think of strategies to make it work on your campus.
I wanted to add another thing. His idea of saying that we should be giving them to American students. So as you know, these scholarships are meant for two groups of Syrian people, the Syrian refugees who have already resettled here but need a scholarship to go to school here, as well as people who aren't here but are Syrian and would like to go to school here. So those people who are Syrian refugees here, I mean, eventually they are going to become American citizens. So you're going to want your population to continue their education. You can kind of explain to them, well, would you rather have these students go get an education and continue to contribute to society, or if otherwise, since they come from they came from a war zone with not a lot of money in their pocket, so when they're going to go to college, they're not going to be able to cover it. So if they don't go to college and they continue on a path where they can't afford it, they might have to continue on assistance from the government. So you can explain to them, well, they can go get an education and contribute and help others, or not. So in the end, you're still helping your American population. Ned or Zane or Francesca, want to add anything to that?
I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. So that actually brings the next. Okay, so Samir asked, by full scholarship, do you mean a full ride to cover 4 years of education, or do you mean a scholarship that covers tuition, textbooks, and living expenses as well, or both?
So ideally it'd be both, but I think that we can maybe reduce it down to just cover tuition, and then we can reach out to community members to support room and board. We're actually in contact with Jusur. I just had a meeting with them 2 days ago, and they work with IIE, and they're one of the founders of the Syria Consortium. So we're working together on a potential partnership to further this campaign. But of course, they're very supportive of the mission, which is to get more scholarships for Syrians. So we'll be exploring how they can take a more active role with us. But they're actually really looking at us and saying, wow, this is great. We really are happy that students are taking a role and really pushing them to actually provide scholarships, and Jusur would be hopefully helping us with the application process of getting the word out to their networks, to the Syrian people, to the Syrian students, so that they can apply, and helping them with the application process. I hope that answers the question.
All right. So we're getting a lot of questions in here. I'm trying to make sure that we kind of go with a flow here. Okay.
I think maybe Young Min's question.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification about the two groups. My question was about Syrian students who are outside of the U.S. Do you expect they will have to go through the grueling 2-year vetting process for refugees before they can come to the U.S. to attend school?
So for this, when they're applying, they're not going to be applying. So it depends. If they're a registered refugee already, then that might complicate their visa application process. But if they're not, for example, if they have a Turkish ID or if they have a dual citizenship or something or other, for whatever reason they have a different kind of citizenship, then they wouldn't go through the 2-year vetting process of being a refugee. So it really depends on the exact situation. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to select this and see if there's anything else. So to follow up on my previous question, did you say Syrian refugees have to go through the asylum screening process, or do they have a different, easier process if they've been admitted to an American university? So that's basically what you covered as well.
So
So when they go to the, sorry.
There's going to be a difference between if they're applying as a refugee or if they're applying for asylum or if they're applying through student visa. So they're kind of 3 separate processes. And so applying for student visa will be different than the refugee application process.
Yeah, so they wouldn't be applying to be refugees in the United States. They would be applying for an F1 visa to come as a student. For the ones who are refugees, in the United States, that's where universities sort of have to make a different classification for them, since in the eyes of the system, like they're already in the U.S. So the university would have to be like, okay, we're going to distinguish Syrian refugees aside from regular applicants and sort of make a different track for them in terms of the application process. In terms of refugees outside the United States, this is something that we'll work on with the IIE to sort of give us more clarity on the actual process. But this is all stuff that will be hopefully clarified by the time that we move on to phase 2. So we're still like in meetings with IIE and Jasud to get all of these like exact details, because as I mentioned before, all the different like types of categories, whether it's TPS, asylum, refugee in the United States, refugee outside the United States, green card, each one of them has sort of like different legal issues. So we'll be working with them to sort of really like get the meat out of the situation and try to help as much as possible.
Yeah, so and you never know, the school that you go to may have a certain set of that classification that they want to cater to. They may choose to only work with, they'll have requirements, just as a lot of times when us as Americans, we apply for scholarships, that they have requirements for us as well. They may have some for the Syrian refugees that they choose to work with. So it might depend school to school as well.
And I'm just reading the question again.
So this is kind of another one that goes along the same lines, and I've just posted it up there.
Okay. So it says, which classifications are we asking them to open up to? Ideally, we're going to be asking for all of them in the resolution, but time will tell more once we continue talking with IIE. And then the other part was, realistically, how possible is it for them to come study here? They've already accepted 800 into the United States on F1 visa. So, I mean, it's a small number, but it's something. So there is possibility, but it is a hard process. It's not easy, so we're not gonna like sugarcoat it. But even if it's just one student, every student counts.
All right.
And I just want to add one other thing. So, sort of like a side conversation we should be having with the universities, or something that we should really drive is sort of bring up these issues that why is it so hard to bring Syrian refugees to the United States to have an education? That there's something wrong with the system. It should become easier. So that way, maybe universities can also take a more active role if they have their, for example, their political science departments, they're leading members of the community. If they start engaging and starting with this conversation and start talking about how, the U.S. needs to change its policy regarding Syrian refugees, then hopefully that will add like a different layer of change. So we're sort of trying to approach this from all different angles to try to get the most benefit. But at the end of the day, sometimes you really have to just like make it like at least like the smallest request we can make is that they offer the scholarship. But we do hope that they'll take a more active role in addressing the Syrian refugee crisis as a whole.
Okay, so I kind of want to move into first I'm going to click on this one, and there's one that's a little more in-depth, which is how would Syrian students be recruited, logistically speaking. So then I'm going to move on to
Sort of answered that one already, but I will repeat. That will be through our partners, IIE, and hopefully Jusud will also help us by spreading it to their networks and their application process.
Also, just think about the sheer volume of Syrian refugee students who are in that age where they can come to university. It's just such a tremendous amount that as far as the recruitment of it, it'll be a much easier process than getting the scholarships because we'll have a very limited number of scholarships for a very high volume population. So just keep that in mind kind of in the back of your head.
All right. So next question. Do you recommend we get a resolution from our student senate now or after we have more detailed structure talked with the administration?
So in terms of approaching student senate and having like a super formal conversation where you're actually like wanting to move forward, I would wait until you have the resolution language, which we're still drafting. If you want to be a part of the drafting process to help us speed it up, shoot us an email and maybe you can help us. But yeah, I would definitely wait a little bit before approaching the Senate, unless it's just like informal conversation, making them aware of the campaign and what you hope to do, like Francesca mentioned earlier.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to answer this next question. So it says, what is our position on using the Syrian Revolution flag? We got called out for being too political for using it. So I want to make a couple distinctions. So SOS uses the Syrian Revolution flag. Books Not Bombs is not political in any way, one way or the other. It does stand for humanitarian rights. Now, SOS is one of the partners organizing Books Not Bombs. So when you're advertising for Books Not Bombs, unless you're a chapter of SOS, you're basically just advertising for Books Not Bombs and the campaign itself. And you don't need to be using the SOS logo unless you are a chapter. And now, if you are an SOS chapter, you have to keep in mind that the basis of SOS is the revolution and the humanitarian aspects of it. And so we want the campaign to be focused on the students and humanitarian rights and the right to go to school and have the education. And SOS itself is, SOS, we have the colors of the revolutionary flag, but we're not saying that, we are
I'll go ahead and just interject here.
Go ahead, yeah.
Syrians for Syria is not a political organization. We are apolitical. The roots of the organization were founded on the revolution, and we do stand for a democratic, free Syria, as you can see in our mission. But we're not going to go ahead and go into that debate in too much detail. We're just going to focus on the Books Not Bombs campaign, which is completely humanitarian. As far as using the flag, the only hesitancy that you would want to restrain or refrain from is using the red flag, because it does signify at the current state the government situation, and so because a large majority of the schools being bombed at present time are bombed by the Assad government, we do want to refrain from confusing anyone with that situation. So first and foremost, you want to remember that Books Not Bombs is a completely humanitarian campaign. We are focused on schools and students and getting students the education they deserve. You can definitely use it to increase conversation about what's happening in Syria, about the refugee situation, but in no way do we want to take away from the campaign with any political antagonism or anything like that, because like I said, the focus is completely on the students and the schools.
And whoever had asked that question, I don't have a name here. If you want to just say that, I hope that answers your question. And in response to that, Zaina just covered why you would not be using the previous flag as well. Like she said, to reiterate, Books Not Bombs has no political affiliation either way, so there is no flag that needs to be used when you advertise Books Not Bombs. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
Piano, 1591, really. Okay. I'm going to give like 1 more minute for any questions that are going to come in. And I know we went over the 1 hour mark, so I do apologize for that. We didn't want to cut your questions short. We want to make sure that we answer all of your questions, guys. So just a little bit of a review here. As far as the resources that you want to be looking for, make sure you are going to our booksnotbombs.com or books-not-bombs.com/resources. You'll be able to find all of these resources here. As we move forward with the campaign, we will be updating this link, this folder, with more PDFs, more documents, more videos, more graphics, more photos. Feel free to share this link with people who are looking for more resources, who are looking for things to print out. As always, you can reach out to us via email at info@books-not-bombs.com, and we can answer any questions that you have there. And I think that's it. We have a few more things coming in here. Oh yes, will we be able to access this at other times just in case we need a refresher? Yes, so this entire Hangout has been recorded. It will be a YouTube video. As soon as we get off the phone, it'll upload, and it'll be a saved YouTube link that you guys can access at any time. We'll share it with you guys in the Facebook chat for those of you who are a petition starter and are in the Facebook chat, and we'll also share it with you via email. So that's definitely there for you as a resource whenever you need it. And I think there was one more question, Dina.
Yeah. Are there any other organizations you're currently reaching out to as new sponsors or partners?
So actively, if you guys go to our About Us page, you can read about all of our partners and our partners and sponsors. SOS, STAND, Syria Campaign, Kadam, our sponsors, partners are Syria Relief and Development, the Syrian Expatriates Organization, Syrian Community Network, Syrian Forum USA, the Syrian American Medical Society. We are not actively recruiting partners right now, but we are accepting partners if people reach out to us. I think just today we received an email for a request to partner on the campaign. There is a set of guidelines for each organization that wants to partner with us on booksnotbombs.com, but we will reach out to them and definitely are open to having more partners and more people participating in this campaign and sending it out to their listservs, to their supporters, because the more people who know about this campaign, the better. So we are not currently actively recruiting.
Zane, I'm going to jump in because I think
organizations that would like to go ahead and partner with us, you can let them know to email us again at the info link at info@books-not-bombs.com.
I'm just going to hop in just for a second to add on, because your voice sort of cut out at one point. I don't know if it was just me. But if you personally have like connections with other organizations, or if you think of any organizations that you think would be good partners with us on this, you can go ahead and reach out to them, make them aware of the campaign, ask them if they want to, and if you get like an initial like interest from them, you can like CC info@booksnotbombs.com and we can like take it from there. So that's also another avenue of how to reach out to different communities.
And then Erna, I think I said it right this time, I hope. As far as if you aren't, so we have a Facebook group chat dedicated to people who have started a petition. We are doing our best to try to get everyone who started a petition into this chat, but it's very difficult if we're not friends with you on Facebook. Unfortunately, Facebook does not allow us to add you to the group. So what you can do to make it probably the easiest is go ahead and send us a link to your Facebook profile via email at info@books-not-bombs.com. If you just send us a link to your profile, you'll get an ad request from one of us on this call. And then once we add you as friends on Facebook, we'll go ahead and add you to the chat, and that way you can keep up with the conversation. It's not a super, like, it's active, it's just not active enough that it's annoying. So we like to keep it balanced, so hopefully you guys are getting the information that you need without getting too bombarded with messages. So definitely if you're interested in being in that chat and keeping up to date on things moving forward with Books Not Bombs, you can definitely email us the link to your personal profile, like I said, and we will hopefully get you in that group ASAP.
And or if you find one, find one of us on Facebook, just go ahead and send us a message, and then we'll add you there.
That too. And for those of you who are thanking us, I just want to say thank you guys for taking the time to watch this whole video, be with us here live, for asking all of your questions, and of course, most of all, for being part of this campaign and taking the initiative at your school, because we can give you guys all the resources, we can set up all the websites, make the Facebook pages, blow up this campaign, but it would not be possible without you guys taking this action on your schools, going and gathering petition signatures, going to your administrations eventually. So as much as we do, you guys are key and vital, and this campaign wouldn't be going on without you guys. So thank you all for being part of the campaign. I think Dina accidentally hopped off. Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
That's okay. I don't think we have any more questions.
Quick question. I didn't really catch the answer. Did you say Syrian students currently not in the U.S. and don't have paperwork from the U.S. have to go through the long vetting process in order to apply, or after being admitted to an American university?
So I'm not 100% sure, and it depends on, once again, if they're a registered refugee with the UNHCR or if they're not. There are some like refugees who, I mean, they're technical refugees, but they're not registered refugees with the UNHCR. So there's all these like different categories, and so we're working with the IIE on really defining each one of them and what the different processes would be for each of those. So we'll work on that with IIE and we'll get back to you guys, and that should be in time for phase 2 so that it's clear in our resolution language.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you again for joining us this evening, and thank you for joining the campaign and making a difference in someone's life.
It looks like we have 11 viewers left. So we'll give them till 10:25 Pacific time, so that's 2 minutes. For any final questions, and for those of you guys who are hopping off right now, feel free to ever email us with questions. Facebook chat if you're in the Facebook chat, and you can send messages also to our Facebook page directly on there as well.
Ooh. 10 viewers. That doesn't count us, does it?
I'm not sure. But either way, we'll give it till 25.
All right. Great work, everyone. Y'all are awesome.
Oh, clarification, by the way. Michigan State University has over 500 signatures. There's 8 viewers left. I said 200 something at the beginning. My apologies.
Yeah, they're 574. Yesterday they were at 518. Like, they're moving up quick.
Yeah, they're killing it. So my apologies for the wrong number. I was looking at the infographic that we made a few days ago. So great job for moving up. And even if you guys aren't here, I'll send you the link so that you know that I talked about it in the last minute of this webinar. Okay. I don't think we're going to get any more conversations, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. If anyone sees this video, has any follow-up questions, again, feel free to email us at info@books-not-bombs.com. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.